I don't even know what to say anymore. Pam Bondi came before this committee, and I asked her questions about this, and she said to me, and these are her words, politics will not play a part in our decisions. Here you go. So when Donald Trump couldn't find someone in the Justice Department to bring the charges against Comey, he pushed out Eric Siebert, a conservative Republican, by Mark Warner's account, a prosecutor that was recommended by the Republican governor of the state of Virginia, and he installed a White House aide to overrule the career prosecutors. He is pressuring the Justice Department about whom to prosecute rather than letting the career prosecutor make a decision about the facts and the laws. That's not justice. As former Trump White House attorney Ty Cobb said, we have a president for the first time in history ordering his AG to indict his enemies. And the AG, instead of being the independent force she's supposed to be, is saying, yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Former Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson, who later became the chief prosecutor at Nuremberg, gave an address in 1940 when he was Attorney General, and it was titled Federal Prosecutor. He said, while the prosecutor at his best is one of the most beneficent forces in our society, when he acts from malice or other base motives, he is one of the worst. Unfortunately, President Trump, driven by clear malice, ordered the prosecution of James Comey, a prosecution which was rejected by a career Republican prosecutor who had looked at the facts and looked at the evidence for months. In a country devoted to the rule of law, it is simply unconscionable for the president to direct the Justice Department to engage in political prosecutions against the recommendations of a career prosecutor. Maybe you think this is small. Maybe you all know that Comey will win this case, as he said himself, bring it on, go to trial. But to me, it is much deeper than that. Donald Trump posted on social media, and the whole world saw his instructions to the Attorney General to go after his perceived political enemies, including the former director of the FBI, who, by the way, was a Republican-appointed U.S. attorney, served a number of positions under Republicans, was my law school classmate, so I know a little bit about his politics. He ordered the Justice Department to go after the sitting Attorney General in the state of New York, and he even ordered the entire Justice Department to go after a member of this committee. And if that is not chilling to my colleagues and they don't care about this, I don't even know what to say anymore. Pam Bondi came before this committee, and I asked her questions about this, and she said to me, and these are her words, politics will not play a part in our decisions. Here you go. So when Donald Trump couldn't find someone in the Justice Department to bring the charges against Comey, he pushed out Eric Siebert, a conservative Republican, by Mark Warner's account, a prosecutor that was recommended by the Republican governor of the state of Virginia, and he installed a White House aide to overrule the career prosecutors. He is pressuring the Justice Department about whom to prosecute rather than letting the career prosecutor make a decision about the facts and the laws. That's not justice. As former Trump White House attorney Ty Cobb said, we have a president for the first time in history ordering his AG to indict his enemies. And the AG, instead of being the independent force she's supposed to be, is saying, yes, sir. How can I get that done? Andrew McCarthy, a former federal prosecutor and conservative commentator, also said that this was a vindictive indictment, incomprehensible, and a mess. You know, I was a prosecutor for 8 years, ran a sizable office, and people would call, hey, don't go after that kid. Oftentimes the kid would be like 35 years old. And not once did I ever go to the career prosecutor and say, get rid of that case, don't do that, oh, have less of a sentence. Because when you cross that line, because you have had that kind of political pressure put on you, you can't go back. You can't go back. You took an oath to represent the government, the people, whether it's a state, whether it is the country, and not to represent, in this case, the president. And this is not happening in a vacuum. At the same time, the president directs investigations and prosecutions of his perceived enemies. He gives pardons to and rewards his friends. The administration reportedly shut down an investigation into border czar Tom Homan for accepting a $50,000 cash bribe. The president pardoned January 6 insurrectionists who assaulted police officers in this very building. And he pressured prosecutors to dismiss a corruption case against Eric Adams. It was Hayden Scotton who was the career prosecutor in that case, someone who had clerked for Justice Roberts and then Judge Kavanaugh. And he said this when he was asked to do the dirty work. He wouldn't do the corrupt work. He said, "You will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me." That's what this is about. And all of us, elected by our states, have to look in our own conscience and think, is this going to be me? Am I going to go along with this, or am I going to say something about it? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very
Klobuchar began by invoking the words of former Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson, a man who literally helped prosecute the Nazis at Nuremberg. Jackson said, "The prosecutor at his best is one of the most beneficent forces in our society, but at his worst, when driven by malice, he is one of the worst." That quote set the tone for what followed, because what we're seeing under Trump is precisely what Jackson warned against. Klobuchar detailed how the former president personally ordered prosecutions of his political enemies, including James Comey, who refused to bend the FBI to Trump's will. A Republican career prosecutor reviewed the case, found no merit, and refused to proceed. So Trump did what he always does. He fired the person who stood in his way and installed a loyalist willing to follow orders. Let's pause on that. A president directly pressuring prosecutors on who to charge. A White House aide overriding the decisions of independent DOJ officials. And an attorney general saying, "Yes, sir," instead of "That's not how justice works." That's not law and order, that's autocracy dressed in a suit. Klobuchar's outrage wasn't about a single prosecution, it was about the pattern. Trump targeting the Attorney General of New York, threatening members of Congress, even attempting to shut down corruption cases against his allies while pardoning violent insurrectionists. It's a full-blown system of selective justice, punishment for critics, protection for loyalists. Even conservative legal figures like Andrew McCarthy and former Trump lawyer Ty Cobb have called these prosecutions vindictive and unprecedented. Think about that. When your own allies start sounding the alarm, you know the foundation of justice is cracking. Klobuchar, herself a former prosecutor, explained why this is so dangerous. Once you cross the line, once political power starts dictating criminal cases, there's no going back. Every future prosecutor becomes an extension of whoever sits in the Oval Office. And at that point, justice isn't blind anymore. It's obedient. She ended with a question that cut through the silence in the room. When the president orders prosecutions of his enemies and rewards his friends, who among us will have the courage to say no? That question wasn't for Trump's enablers. It was for every elected official, every DOJ lawyer, every voter who still believes in the rule of law. This isn't just about Trump or Comey. It's about whether America still has an independent justice system at all. Because if we accept a president who prosecutes his rivals and shields his friends, we've already lost more than an election. We've lost the very idea of justice itself. If you believe accountability matters, if you believe justice should never serve one man, hit that subscribe button, like this video, turn on notifications, and let me know in the comments what you think it takes to stop this slide into political prosecution.